Yes, that's right. It's Joe here live for Joyrider TV, back with some more Q&A, of course, as you would expect on such an evening. Hello to everybody who's already joined live, and hello to everybody who is joining later. Thanks for coming. Yeah, so today's hot topic is explaining the mast rake on the Hobie 16. And yeah, I've already written some stuff on the board here. And one of the main things, or actually, let's not go one of the main things. Let's look at the fundamentals of mast rake. So what mast rake is talking about is the angle of the mast in relation to the angle of the platform. So if the mast was back here, that would be said to be a lot of mast rake. Whereas if the mast was absolutely straight up, this would be said to be not, well, be said to be no mast rake at all. So what we're looking to do is to find the sweet spot. Before we find the sweet spot, I'd just like to give Hussein and Scott a shout out for getting the ball rolling with the no advertising on the live Q&A campaign by shooting in some super stickers this early in the game. Thank you very much, guys. So if you want to keep your live Q&A advert free, keep shooting in the super stickers, and then we can keep it ad free. Thanks very much, Scott. Thank you, Hussein. Looking forward to seeing you on Sunday, Hussein. Good times on their way. All right, so we've defined what mast rake is. Now, what does mast rake actually do? So what it does is it changes the relationship of the center of effort, that is the area of the rig where most of the power is coming from, and the center of lateral resistance. So if we draw in our sail here, and yes, we've got a jib as well. So our center of effort on the rig, let's say, is somewhere like, because we've got the jib there as well, it would be, this is the main central part of the center of effort just here. And then the center of lateral resistance on a boat with asymmetric hulls, it is quite ambiguous where that center of lateral resistance is, because the 16 or the boat like this doesn't have a fixed pivot point like that on a symmetrical hull with a dagger board like this. That has got very much a center of lateral resistance, which is the dagger or centerboard, whereas on here the center of lateral resistance a bit more ambiguous, and it would probably be that whole area from here to here, so a much wider section, which does make it a little bit more difficult to be scientific about it. But what we're trying to do with the center of effort in relation to the center of lateral resistance is to have the center of effort so that it's just slightly behind that lateral resistance. So what we're looking for, and we'll just cheat here a bit for the purpose of the diagram, is we want to have the majority of this, let's say the center of this, more towards the back of the center of lateral resistance, because then what that is going to do is, if this is the boat, it's going to apply pressure further behind, and by putting pressure further behind, if this is, let's just say that's our center of lateral resistance, if we put pressure behind that, that is going to want to turn the boat into the wind, which is what we need help with. We don't need help with this rig setup when it comes to sailing downwind, because we don't need any sort of extra lift to get us going further downwind. Whereas on the upwind, we are looking for extra closer to the wind so that we can sail towards the wind faster and with a better angle, which is why we want to have the mast further back. There's other benefits to having the mast further back, which is that it's bringing the weight of the rig more over the back of the boat. And Oliver with the super sticker, thank you very much. Keeping the live Q&A ad free. Yeah, shooting your super stickers if you don't want adverts on your Q&A. That's not a threat, by the way. Yeah, by having the mast further back, also more weight over the back of the boat, which means your boat is going to be less prone to sticking the nose in, just because we've got more weight over the back and less weight over the front. Very important to bear in mind. And what other benefits does the mast rake give us? I'm going to go with that for now. So how do we set up the mast rake on a Hobie 16? And in fact, what we'll do is we'll address the Hobie 16 first, and then we'll go on to the Tornado Formula 18 style boat, so that then we can have a complete picture of the whole shooting match. Yes. All right. So how do we measure it? I think we could drop the mainsail for a start. There we go. And just going to get rid of our rudder there. And but we're keeping the jib up, because what we want before we start measuring we need to have the rig tension on, because if we don't have any rig tension on a boat like a 16, the mast rake isn't really going to be particularly accurate. It's just going to be flopping around. Because yeah, I was talking to James from where's it? Let's say from who sails on Lake Michigan. I was talking to James today, who sails on Lake Michigan, about this very topic. And it's kind of like on the 16, the way we set our mast rake is backwards. What we're doing is we're actually restricting the mast from going forwards, rather than setting the rake like we would do on a boat like a Tornado. So on our shroud adjusters, so which would be just down here, we're setting the shrouds to limit how far the mast can go forwards. So at the base of our shrouds, if this is our shrouds here, we've got our stay adjusters, chain plates with the holes in. We've got the bottom hole, which should, okay, if you're sailing a 16, this is what you should have. From the bottom hole, that should go onto what I like to call a twisty bit. And then that twisty bit goes on to the tang, or the shroud anchor tang, which would then be through the gunnel of the boat, and underneath that we've got like a spreader of adjustment like that. So the further down we put the shroud into this adjuster, that is going to hold the mast further back. So it's going to prevent it from going any further forwards the most. And then as we come up, it's going to allow the mast to come further forwards. Now, if we're just talking about the holes that we're going to set it in, so with a standard stock, not really messed around with too much Hobie 16, as it came out of the factory with the standard rigging lengths, then this is all depending on crew weight where we're going to put the holes, because the lighter teams need the mast further back, whereas the heavier teams need the mast to be allowed to come forwards a little bit more, which is going to give them a bit more power. So for the lightest team, we're going to set, so that's under 125 kilos combined, we're going to put the shroud into hole number 1. So we're going to call that 125. Then into hole number 2, we've got 125 to 135. Apologies for everybody who is imperial. We are talking metric today. Thank you very much to Fiona for the super sticker, keeping the live Q&A ad free. Thank you, Fiona, for that. And then next hole number 3, you can see where this is going to go. 135. Apologies for the handwriting. 1 to 145. Then in hole number 4 would be 145 plus. And we're never going to put the shroud higher up than the 4th hole, because then we're going to start having this problem which we're talking about with the center of effort too far forwards in relation to the center of lateral resistance, and we're going to be putting the weight of the rig too far forwards, which is going to both make the boat much more prone to digging the nose in, but as well as that, it's also going to be taking too much pressure off the rudders, which means your steering is going to feel bad. There we go. I hope everybody's with me so far. So this is the very simple stages of adjustment that you can use if you've got a very standard boat with standard rigging, but perhaps you're sailing a 1977 Tequila Sunrise Hobie 16 with beautiful yellow hulls and a yellow trampoline as well. If you are actually, if that fits your boat, do mention it in the comments, because that is a special piece of boat. And we were saying today actually that somebody should go out trying to find 1970s Hobie cats and putting them in an actual museum to keep them absolutely pristine, because you know, having a barn find kind of boat with brand new sails from the 70s, very nice, but if you use it extensively, those sails are not going to stay very nice for very long, and well, they won't be like crispy factory fresh for very long, and it'd just be a very cool thing to do, I think. So anyway, if you have got an older boat, perhaps you're not sure if your rigging is stock, or perhaps you've tried setting your boat up with these settings and it just seems weird or wrong, then another thing we can do is to actually measure the mast rake. So rig tension on, we've put the jib up, we've pulled some tension onto the jib halyard, and we're then going to take the main halyard from the top of the mast and we're going to pull it tight until it touches the bow tang. Thanks very much to Ryan in Maui for the super sticker, keeping the Q&A ad free. Thank you, Ryan. We're doing well. Yeah, hashtag ad free, like that. Very good. Yeah, so we're going to take our main halyard and press it onto the bow tang with it pulled tight. And let's say we've got extra main halyard down here, which we should have. If your main halyard doesn't seem long enough, Thank you very much to Stephen for the super sticker, keeping the Q&A ad-free. If you want me to stop saying that, give me a shoot in a super sticker saying stop saying that, and I'll come up with another slogan. Yeah, so if your main halyard is too short to be able to get it down to the bow tang, which it probably would be, what you can actually do is if this is the wire part of the main halyard, then you can attach this. If you've got a capsize writing line, attach it to the capsize writing line, so then you can actually hoist the capsize writing line up the mast, which will give you more of the rope halyard to use. I hope that everybody's with me. I'm not going too fast here, because I'm trying for this not to take too long, but at the same time, it's nice if everybody does kind of understand what I'm on about. Yeah, but the bottom line is we want the main halyard tight, pulled between the top of the mast and the bow tang. And then what we're going to do once we've got it in that position is we're going to put a mark on the main halyard, perhaps with a pen. And then what we're going to do once we've got that mark on there is we're going to swing the main halyard to the back, so it will overlap the mast a little bit. And we're going to, the place where we're going to press it next with it pulled tight is on the bottom corner of the hull. Yeah. And then when we're pressing it on the bottom corner of the hull, we're going to put another mark. Okay. So we're going to end up with the main halyard with 2 marks. Everybody with me? I think so. So 2 marks, which would be kind of like this. And then what we're going to do is we're going to measure the distance between these 2 marks. And here are the different distances that we are looking for. So if you're a lightweight team, this distance wants to be around 78 centimeters, which means that the mast is further back. 125 to 135, 69. Okay, 135 to 145, 48. So coming a bit more upright. And then 145 plus, then we're dropping down to 44 centimeters between those 2 marks. So that is how we are going to determine how much mast rake we have got on a 16. Okay, I hope everybody's cool with that. Something else that we need, there are many things that we could talk about when it comes to the mast rake. Another thing that we can talk about is how much sheet tension can you get on? And this kind of comes into, you know, so this is like, it's almost like scientific and definite how much mast rake to put on by setting the shrouds. Thanks very much to Jens for the super sticker, keeping the Q&A ad free. Thank you very much. Yeah, so the actual amount of restriction that we're giving the rig from going forwards, let's just say that is set. That is something that is a definite, and that is what we're going to do. But here we go. This is where it gets even juicier, is rig tension. Because rig tension on a 16, if you're not initiated in the ways of the 16, the rig tension is set on the jib halyard, and the more rig tension you put on, the more it's going to pull the mast as far forwards as it is allowed to go. So if we've got the rig tension on full, we're really going to be getting the maximum amount of power out of whatever setting we have put that on. And then if we've got to a stage in the wind where we feel that when we're sailing upwind, most of this is about determining our upwind performance. If we feel that when we're sailing upwind, perhaps we're trapezing, we're lifting the hull, but when we get more wind, it doesn't really feel like the boat wants to go very fast. And let's say as well, because we know from watching previous Q&As and the fine videos on Joyrider TV, we know that if we pull the downhaul on full, this takes the center of effort of the mainsail down and forwards, and the lower down our center of effort is and the further forwards our center of effort is in the mainsail, that's going to help to drive the boat more forwards, giving us more boat speed. So we've got the downhaul on full, but when we're getting more wind, we just feel like the boat doesn't want to go. Our perfectly set up rudders don't feel very nice. So that is the time when we need to loosen the rig tension. Yeah. So if we're loosening the rig tension, how much should we loosen it? It's a lot less than you think. The range that we are loosening the rig tension would be something between 1 and 4 inches of rig tension, which isn't as much as you might think. So one way to deter, well, what happens as we loosen the rig tension is, if we look at the profile of the boat from the back, when the rig tension is tight, have I got another mast? Yes, I have. When the rig tension is tight, if we look from the back and let's say the wind is coming in from this way, then the mast is going to be kind of straight up. But if we've got the rig tension loose, the mast, as well as coming further back, is also going to lean to leeward, which is going to help to open up the back edge of the sail, which is going to make it a more efficient shape. And it's going to mean that when we get those gusts of wind, the boat isn't automatically just going to try to lift the hull. Sorry, it's like technical problem in the studio. I've just lost screen number 2. Can we come back, please? All right. So that is one of the byproducts of loosening the rig tension. And the other one is bringing the mast further back, which if you see the windsurfers, when they're going for maximum speed, they're getting the rig really far back. And that is how you get the big speed when the wind gets up. So when is it too much that we're loosening the rig tension? Well, what we can look at is, one way of gauging it is, we want to be able to get the main sheet blocks, if you're running a 6-to-1, which would be a 6-to-1 with this style of main sheet blocks like this, we're going to want to be able to get them so they're pretty much touching, which we call block to block, which is fine if you're using a main sheet which is like this. However, if you're using a main sheet where you have the single block at the bottom and then the split to the 2 blocks at the top, which would look something like this, yeah, then that block to block kind of feeling is not really particularly appropriate. So I did actually calibrate it earlier of how much distance, and this is something you would need to do on land to determine what your range of rig tension is on the jib halyard. But for me, the correct amount is if I put my outstretched hand, this might sound a little bit weird, but no change there. If you put your outstretched hand, and let's say this is the back beam, onto the back beam, then it comes 2 inches further up than where I have my watch. So up to there, that's where the boom, the bottom of the boom is. So that is how low down the boom wants to be. Yes, I could have probably measured it with a tape measure, but in fact, let's do that now. So this is live arm measuring on Joyrider TV, just when you thought it couldn't get much better. So that is 28 28 centimeters between the bottom of the boom and the rear beam when you've got your main sheet pulled in full, when the rig tension has been loosened to the maximum amount that you're ever going to loosen it. Okay. So I think on this topic of mast rake, just to before we look at how we measure the mast rake on an F18 style boat, we're going to leave that there because I think we've talked about that quite enough, unless there's more juicy stuff in the live chat. So I'm going to jump into the live chat and say hello to everybody who's saying hello today. Starting off in pole position, we've got Leland Lee in Clearwater, Florida. Great to have you on board as always, Lee. Very nice. And coming in next is Thorn G in central Germany. Nice to have you on board. Also, Fiona's with us, as is Hussein in Egypt. I should think Hussein is packing his bags, ready to fly to Vasiliki, Lefkas, Greece, where we're going to be doing some great sailing. Pete is on board in sunny-ish Scotland. Yeah, hope it's not too bad. All right, so Scott is dropping it in the slot. Hello to the Joyrider community. Bernhard is on board in Austria. He's coming to Vasiliki in 3 weeks. Very nice. Digger 76 is, I believe he's giving us the dab. I know that because I have a 12-year-old. Yeah, Stephen from Grafham Water is on board. He's coming to Vasiliki. A lot of the global community are visiting, let's call this the homeland. Can we do that? Or is that not right? This year. Yeah, Stephen is coming in 1 week. All right, Oliver is on board. Great to have you with us, Oliver, as always. And we've got John with us. Oh dear. John says, you have inspired me to go out and purchase a Hobie 16. Sorry about that. And I'm learning to sail now. Fantastic. This is, you know, if you were to ask me, what are your goals regarding what you're doing with Joyrider TV? My 2 goals, main goals, is number 1, exactly what John is talking about. I am wanting to get more people into sailing catamarans, because sailing catamarans can change your life, because it is fun. That is the bottom line. It's fun. It's getting out there, away from it all. It's great for your mind. It's good for your body, can be. And it is very cool, very fun. And I'm just trying to increase the participation in our great sport. The second thing I'm trying to do with Joyrider TV is the people. There's obviously a lot of people who watch Joyrider TV who are already engaged in this fine sport of catamaran sailing. And what I'm trying to do for those guys is help them to get more from their boat. And that helping to get more might be talking about mast rake and which hole to put your pin in, or it might just be for the fact that we're running the speed stick, and by getting on the speed stick, it means that you're getting more from your boat, because when you go sailing, perhaps you're going out with a bit more of an actual tangible goal that you are trying to achieve while you're out sailing. So in that way, helping people to get more from their boats. There are probably other things that are coming out as a byproduct of it all, but that is what I'm trying to do. So thanks very much, John, for letting us know that it has worked. And I tell you what, if it works just for one person, then I'd say that's a win. I think it's probably worked for at least two. Okay, Oliver says, only short visit I have to work. Everybody have a great time. Thanks for tuning in, Oliver, and thanks for the super sticker. Keeping the Q&A ad-free. We've got Ryan on board, of course, in Maui, Hawaii. Morning in Kauai, something like that. I'm over here with grade 7 students at the Kauai Sailing Association. Very nice. We are learning on toppers. Yeah, toppers are it's actually a British brand of sailing dinghy. Very simple, and in fact, very similar to the RS. It's like the original version of the RS Zest, which I just did the recent videos on. The one video of the like beginner lesson, second video of what to do if you capsize. Excellent videos. I think you'll find, even if dinghy sailing or monohull sailing isn't your interest, still worth a look, because you never know when you might go somewhere and your only choice is to sail a monohull, which is, you know, it is still fun. Definitely. All right, so where are we up to? All right, Ryan says the kids are digging it. Nice, getting the kids involved in the sport. Okay, and we've got Jens on board, channel member Jens. Scott says, I find it difficult to step and unstep the mast when in hole 3 or less due to the mast step link. Yeah, I would have to ask Scott the question. So yeah, what can happen is, depending on how the lengths of your rigging line up, is if you are putting the mast down quite far, it can actually make your rigging quite tight, which is why when you see the Hobie 16s that we're using here in Vasiliki at Wildwind Sailing Holidays, is on the forestay, we're actually using a second chain. Oh god, that's awful. Sorry, I've let myself down there with a poor quality illustration. So on the forestay, we've got the regular chain plate where we would attach the jib, but because the actual forestay wire only serves a purpose to hold the mast up when the jib isn't up, we put on a second chain plate like this, and the forestay wire attaches to the end of that one, which means there's loads more slack, which means it'll be much easier to get your mast up and down. Even if you're putting it all the way to the bottom, there should be enough. Now, why is it sitting at this angle? Because this illustration is like when the jib is up. So if there's the jib there up, and then what we would do, so this is the jib. I hope everyone's down with that. That's the jib. And then, because what would happen if we just put the jib up and left it is the forestay would now be so slack, it would just be rubbing on the jib all the time, which, if nothing else, it is going to degrade the quality of your jib much sooner. So what we would actually do is tie some elastic to here, down to here. I find 6mm is 6mm elastic is very good for this. and that pulls that tight enough to stop it from rubbing on the jib. All right, we got Chris on board in Galveston Bay, Texas. Chris has been out sending it for the speed stick on his F18, which does remind us quite nicely that coming up pretty soon, not long now, just a couple of weeks, I would think, is coming up the Nacra 50th anniversary regatta in Texas. So if you sail a Nacra, or if you sail an F18 and you want to go to one of the funnest events that are coming up in the USA, in Texas, then just check it out. I think the Facebook page is the best place to start. Just go on Facebook, type in your search Nacra 50th, and then there should be two. One is the one in Texas, and the other one is in August, Lake Como, Italy. And yes, I'm going to be there. I'm entered and everything. So there we go. Yeah, so if you can get to either of those events, even if you don't have a Nacra, but you just want to hang out and meet some like-minded individuals, and perhaps, you know, by just going, somebody will probably say, do you want to come for a sail? And you say, yes. So pack your sailing shoes, wetsuit, trapeze harness, and all of that. And you never know what fantastic things are going to happen at events like that, which are kind of like organized to be a bit less serious than like a European or World Championships. Still hard competitive racing, but with more of a fun edge somehow. Yes. Thank you for tuning in, Chris. All right. Also on board. Oh, something's just happened. Yeah. Lee says, yeah, this is in response to Scott struggling with dropping the mast. Yeah, when I step or drop the mast, I always put the shroud in the top hole first. Yeah, this is very much the technique that we would use on a what I would call a tight rigged catamaran like the Tornado, because otherwise you just don't have a chance to actually connect the shrouds straight away, or to connect the forestay into the right hole. Okay, in response to send a super sticker, the super sticker button is just next to the chat thing on the live chat. In response to this super sticker, to keep the live Q&A ad free, Stephen has said, can I pay extra to get the adverts? I think I'm just going to say no. You've done enough. Okay, Digger76 says, is it common to ease the jib tension a bit on a run? Yeah, if we're talking Hobie 16, I would say no, because what we're trying to do on the downwind legs is we still want to have the rig, as especially on the downwind, we want to have the rig as far forwards as it is allowed to go by the shrouds. So by keeping the rig tension on, that's going to help to pull the rig forwards. Now, the reason why on certain types of boat, like the Hobie 14, they're sailed with a very loose rig, it's because of the dimensions of the boat. We want the mast further back on the upwind, but if it was held in that position, it wouldn't go far enough forwards on the downwind. So by having it really loose, it allows it to go back on the upwind because the main sheet is pulling it back. And then on the downwind, when the main sheet is loose and the wind is blowing the rig forwards, it's going to come more forwards. By having the rig more forwards on the downwind, we're going to be presenting more sail to the wind, making the boat effectively more powerful, which is going to help to take us more downwind quickly. All right, Ryan in Maui says imperial and metric and Joe's arm proportions all in one Q&A. Yep, that's the way that we're rolling. This time I'd just like to give a big shout out to Instamic. If you want to have the best audio on the water, like if you want to go out sailing and like have a black box style flight recorder, get an Instamic and you can record what goes on the boat. If I got, it looks like this, very small microphone, really good audio quality, perfect, records onto itself. You don't have to Bluetooth it, although you can, and very good. No wind noise. Thank you. Okay. So Scott says, I usually sail solo, coming in at 75 kilos. Stick it in the bottom hole. I usually have it in the third hole. Yeah, I think if you're always sailing solo, I would say see what it's like to put it in the lowest hole. Put it in there, take the boat for a sail and see how it pans out. Now, one thing that I do to make it much easier when it actually comes to adjusting the holes that we're putting this in is if this is our shroud coming in here, and there is the eye in the shroud going up like this, I actually put into the shroud, in through here, I put the pin in there, like as you'd expect, but then I put a pin in here as well, because the eye in the rigging is big enough to take 2 pins. And that means when you want to adjust the rig tension, as long as you're just adjusting it one hole at a time, sorry, when you're adjusting the mast rake on the shrouds, one hole at a time, you can just kind of like almost leapfrogging with these pins so that there's no risk. Where if this is kind of like, especially if you're doing this on your own, and it can be quite tricky. So this means there's no risk in the mast falling down. One hole at a time, take a pin out, pull it down, put the pin in the next hole, get the ring in, and then if you're going down another one, just repeat. Very good system for that. All right, Jens says he's visiting Vasiliki Lefkas, Greece next week. Very nice. Everybody is coming. All right, Dirk is on board from Ottertail Lake, Minnesota. Sailing season has started here in Minnesota, and the Getaway out one of time, and the other Hobies hopefully at the weekend we'll see some action. Great stuff there, Dirk. Very pleased to hear that the great defrosting of lakes has been doing a good job. All right, we got Smithers on board from Charleston, South Carolina. Smithers has got a 1982 Hobie 16 with Carumba sails. Sailed it for the first time last week and it was a blast. Great stuff. Very pleased to hear that. Digger 76 says, totally unrelated to today's topic, but how should you submit to the speed stick? Just by registering in the WaterSpeed app. Yeah, at the moment, there isn't a specific speed stick event running on WaterSpeed, but what I would do, let's see if I can actually do this, if I've got the technical wizardry to do this without any research. WaterSpeed app. So the WaterSpeed app is the official speed tracker of the global speed stick competition. But if you've already got another app which you love, or perhaps your GPS watch doesn't speak to WaterSpeed for some reason, then you can use whatever you like. If we could avoid using Strava, that would be good, because what I find with Strava is it gives really spiky readings, which I don't think are particularly accurate. So if we can avoid that, that would be great. So if we go to a here we go, Hobie 16, fastest ever. So we'll click on that, and then we go to this sort of page. Does it work like that? No. Okay. What about if we go share? Share. I should have if I'd have known, I'd have researched this. But yeah, I think you could go share and then share public link and then send me. Let's see what happens without heart rate. We don't need to know. Yeah, and then copy that, send it to me, and then I'll be able to see it, and then off we go. You can get on the speed stick. So for the speed stick, you do need to email me totaljoyrider@icloud.com. You'll see that link in all of the speed stick videos. New video coming on Sunday, by the way, bit of editing to do. So any speeds that come in between now and Sunday, unfortunately, aren't going to make it into that update video because I've already videoed the video bit. Yeah, so process, GPS running, go sailing, come back in, celebrate that you went really fast, then do a screenshot or anything way of getting the evidence of your session, which includes your top speed, then email it to me along with the information of who it was who was sailing the boat, what type of boat it was, and where it was. Very important. And then also when you're sending in your results, if you can also send in, if you've got one, a picture or a short video clip of the session, that just makes the speed stick update video a bit more interesting, I think. And then you'll be put on the speed stick. It is a great, I think it's a great way of having a goal to go for, because not everybody is racing around the buoys, but it's nice to have a goal anyway. So there you go. Pete says, I think I've got it. Mast Rake makes a lot more sense now. Great. Oh, and that was Pete who asked the question. Sorry, Pete, for not giving you a shout out for asking the question. Yes, this whole Mast Rake question came from Pete, who's in the live chat as well. Glad that that helps. Scott says, thanks, Joe, for the second chain plate edition. Nice. Ryan says, Nacra in Italy, that would be amazing. Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it. And don't tell anybody, but Nacra are lending me an Evolution to do that event on. I'm going to be careful with it. Yeah, I'm excited about that. I could tell you for free, having sailed an Evolution for about 45 minutes, I just want to sail one again and again and again. So nice. All right, so Hussein says, my Hobie 16 performance increased dramatically after Joe tuned it when we had the training in Egypt. Yeah, I went to Egypt to help Hussein and Tarek with their Hobie 16 sailing, and I think that we had a great week. So yes, this sort of coaching is available. So if you want to give your catamaran sailing a boost, then I can come to your sailing location and spend time with you on your boat, with you, just helping you to get more from your boat, whatever it is that you need to get more from. Yeah, so yeah, just check out the coaching page at totaljoyrider.com if you want me to turn up at your door and say, okay, I'm here, let's go sailing. Or do you want your rudders tuned up? We could do that as well. All right, Mr. Tony KP is on board. Nice to have you with us. Just checked in to show I'm here. We'll watch later. Okay, nice one. Ryan says, do you tether that Instamic? Yeah, have I got no. What I actually do when I go sailing with the Instamic is I use a like a, what would it be called, a lycra. I've got it, have I got one here, a lycra hairband type thing. I'll just check this one. I've got no, I haven't. All right, let's not mess around now. Yeah, so like a lycra like headband type thing. And what I've done on the lycra headband is I've just cut a small slot in it, and then what I do is I put the Instamic inside the lycra headband, which is kind of like a tube, and then I use a very small piece of elastic tied tightly around the headband to basically close the gap where it went in so it can't fall out. And then this ends up here, and then I generally have a lycra shirt on that goes over the top of that, and that keeps it really secure. There we go. That is how I'm doing that. Oh, we've got Max on board in Rosenheim, Germany. Max would like to wish everybody a great sailing weekend. Yeah, we should be getting some wind here this weekend. Could be quite exciting. Okay, so as promised, if we are transferring this into talking about the tight rigged catamarans. So for me, I like to define it as they are two types of catamaran. See you later, Ryan. Have fun on the water with grade 7. Two types of catamaran generally, tight rigged and loose rigged. A loose rigged catamaran is like a Hobie 16 or 14, like a Dart 18, something where you might loosen the rig to help to lose power. Whereas a tight rigged catamaran is a boat where actually tightening the rig helps to lose power by making the rig more efficient. And that would be like a boat like a Tornado, which we have here. So when we're measuring the mast rake on a boat like this, basically because the mast isn't so fiercely raked back like on a Hobie, it's a lot easier to measure the mast rake. So with the mast up, rig tension on, what we'll do here is, again, we don't generally use the main halyard on here, but instead we'll take a trapeze line, and you might have to tie an extra little piece of rope onto the trapeze line to make it long enough. And we're going to take that same sort of vibe. We're going to take that so that it touches the bow fitting, like the clevis pin in the bow fitting. We then take that trapeze line to the back of the boat and see where it touches on the back of the boat. And we're only using a short range on these types of boats. So for the heaviest teams, we want this line to touch down right on the corner, which just there. And then as we get lighter teams, so a heavy team, I would say, is 160 kilos or more. Then if we're like 140 to 160, we want to go about, I'm mixing metric with imperial again, about 2 inches down the back. And then if we're going a bit lighter still, so 120 to 140, then we'll go another inch down the back. So there we go. That is how we would perform the same thing with a Tornado, with an F18, with an F16, and various boats like that. Thank you very much. Okay, so just to, I've got another question in the preloaded department from Jochen, who says he's got a Nacra infusion, and it always, in one of the hulls, he's always got about half a litre of water after sailing. And first question is that dangerous? No, I think after a full session of sailing, half a litre of water isn't going to create much danger. It's not much weight to add to the hull. The one thing that makes it a little bit kind of like would make it a little bit more volatile is the fact that if you slow down suddenly and you've got water in your hull, that water's going to rush forwards. So like, let's say if you're sailing a fast reach and you've got water in your hull and you go into a wave and all that water goes flying forwards into the front of the hull, then it's just going to add to that kind of pressure that is pulling the front of the boat down. So that is one thing that can happen. If it's just about half a litre, that's not much. I would say if it's like, what, more than 2 or 3 litres, then that is when it is an issue. So where could that be coming in? First place to check, because the part of the boat which is always in the water is, if we look at the back of the boat, well, not always in the water, but in the water a lot of the time, is all of these fittings on the back of the hull. And these fittings would have a number of bolts holding them in. You might have a bung as well. So you've got all this going on in the back of the in the back of the hull. And so this is one of the most likely places on a boat like this where it might be leaking. So the thing to do firstly is just see with these bolts that are holding in the gudgeons, that's the part that holds the rudder, just take a screwdriver to them and see if they turn. If they turn really easily, then that is potentially how water is getting into the hull. The same with like a bung housing would be almost like an eye, like that, with a screw in both sides. Same with the bung housing. And anything that sits in the water like that, that has got to be the first place to look at when it comes to having a leaky boat. So yeah, and what check if anything's loose. If it's loose, that is very likely to be where it's leaking. So if it's loose, I'd say best thing to do, if you can, if it requires loads of effort, then to take these bolts out, tread carefully, because if you put in loads of effort trying to get these bolts out and you shear one, if it snaps inside, then that becomes a major issue, which could potentially stop you from using your boat for it could be a significant period of time if you need to get somebody else in to extract the snapped part of that bolt out of the hull. But if it's quite straightforward and easy to take the bolts out, remove the fitting, just have a little clean up where the fitting was, let it dry out, and then put in some sealant. Like Sikaflex is the best, I think, is the best product to use. Seal it up with Sikaflex, put it all back on, make sure those bolts are done up nice and tight, and then same with the bung housing. Make sure that that is all good. You could take that off, clean it up, reseal it, put it back, and anything else that you think looks like it could be beneath the water a certain amount of the time, which could be letting water into the hull, those would be the places to check initially, I would say. Also, if you have got a bung, let's draw a bung, kind of the bung. Let's just do a bung like that, and then it's got the threads on it like that. Now, your bung, and then, sorry, which end is that? That's the sort of handle on the bung, like that. And so on the bung, there absolutely must be a rubber seal that would sit up here. If you haven't got a rubber seal, then that is almost certainly going to be a place where the boat will take in water. So if you haven't got a rubber seal, get hold of a rubber seal. You could get one from most hardware shops. Just take your bung with you into a hardware shop. Say, got anything that will fit that? Oh, yes. And that could be the solution to your problems. The other thing with the bung is these are always plastic. And if you sail from a sandy beach and you get sand on the bung and then you screw it in, what's going to happen is that's going to act like sandpaper, rubbing the bung down over time, which is going to make it a less watertight fit, so that, again, water could get in through the bung. So there we go. Okay, and finally on this one, the other place where a boat like this could be leaking, if we look at the hull from, let's say we're looking at the hull from the bottom, there's the gudgeons for the rudder, is the daggerboard case. Yeah, if your boat has hit the bottom with the daggerboards down, or might not have even hit the bottom, if it's just getting if it's had a lot of use, then cracks might start appearing round here, round the side where the actual case meets the bottom of the hull. So good to have an inspection of that as well. A best way to inspect your daggerboard cases without taking the boat apart is to actually tip the boat over onto its side. So there you go. I would say those are the key places to inspect. But whatever's happening, also equally important, if it's just a little bit of water, you do need to make sure that when you're leaving your boat after sailing, you leave it with no water inside. Because if you've got water inside the hulls, what's going to happen is, even if you think where you live isn't particularly warm, it will be warm enough to create for that water to start creating humidity inside the hulls, and that humidity is going to start to cause some sort of osmosis type of thing to your hulls from the inside, which could lead to soft hulls. Nobody wants that. Okay, there we go. Okay, so just finishing off now. So last one is Fiona says, thank you for yet another of your terrific sailing lessons. I'm sure when I re-listened, I missed the first 10 minutes. Very good. All right, thank you very much, Fiona, and thanks to everybody else for tuning in today. I hope that you have got some great information from that. If you want to support Joyrider TV and you're going to an event this year, why not get a custom t-shirt for your team to wear? Like for me and Ben going to the Tornado Worlds, we'll be sporting a bit of Bad Boy 94 on the front and on the back. Oh, actually, this is the Swedish John edition. We've actually got a picture of the boat on the back. So I'm not going to go to too many acrobatics just now. But if you want anything custom from totaljoyrider.com, just send me an email and I can get stuff to you for whatever event it is that you need stuff for. Thank you very much. I'll see you soon with some more on Joyrider TV.